Assalamualaikum warahmatullahi wabarakatuh. So today I am going to present the rising price of oil in Malaysia and its impact on the cost of living. So introduce you our team, which is Umi Syaira binti Saiful Bari 1241177, Siti Nur Fatihah binti Nur Syam 1241179, Rehana Husna binti Rizdi 1241178 Nur Husna Sofia binti Azhar 1241183, Nur Alia Najwa binti Muhammad Sukarmi 1241187, Fatimah Zahra binti Syamsul Kamal 1241186. Today our group will present about the topic of the rising of oil in Malaysia and its impact on the cost of living. Okay, so when we talk about the oil prices, many people immediately think about petrol for cars and motorcycles. However, in this presentation, we will not only focus on petrol, we will also focus on diesel because diesel is widely used in lorries, van, buses, delivery services, and business. So this is important because even if we do not personally use diesel, we can still be affected indirectly. So when diesel cost increase, transportation and logistics may also increase. As a result, the prices of goods and services may become higher. Okay, for the next slide is understanding oil and fuel prices in Malaysia. For this topic, oil prices refers to petroleum-based fuels such as RON 95, RON 97, and diesel. These fuels are important in Malaysia because they support many daily and economic activities. RON 95 is commonly used by private vehicles users, while RON 97 is usually used by those who can afford higher price petrol. So diesel is especially important because it is used by logistics companies, public transport, delivery vehicles, agriculture, and small businesses. Malaysia also monitors fuel prices weekly. This shows that fuel prices are important national issue because they are closely connected to global crude oil prices, government subsidies, and the cost of living. For the next slide is statement. Food prices changes increase cost pressure. So the main problem is that rising oil fuel prices can create pressure on living costs. However, it is important to explain this issue accurately. We should not focus only on petrol because RON 95 is still controlled and subsidized for eligible nations. Therefore, it is weaker to simply say um, that petrol is very expensive without strong proof. A stronger argument is that diesel price changes can affect the cost of living indirectly. So this is because diesel is used in transportation, logistics, and business operations. When diesel costs increase, businesses may face higher costs and may increase the price of goods and services in Malaysia. For the next slide, this is objectives of the study. This study is to identify causes of rises oil and fuel prices. So, first, we want to identify the factors that contributes to rising oil and fuel prices in Malaysia. Second, we want to examine the connection between fuel prices and cost of living. So third, we analyze the impact on different groups such as households, students, workers, and small businesses. We also evaluate fuel subsidy policies from NACLI and ACLI perspectives. Lastly, we suggest the practical and creative solutions to reduce the burden on Malaysia. The next slide is the significance of the topic. So this topic is important because fuel is connected to many daily expenses. Even people who do not use diesel directly can still be affected because goods are transported by lorries, vans, and deliveries vehicles. So the Department of Statistics Malaysia explains that the Consumer Price Index tracks, which is CPI, tracks major groups of goods and services purchased by Malaysians and is used to measure changes in living cost. So the four groups that is affected is household, small businesses, students, and government. The next slide is about factors contributing to issue. First is global crude oil prices instability. So global oil prices can change due to supply and demand. Also due to political conflicts, wars, sanctions, and economic uncertainty. Second is diesel subsidy rationalization. The government implemented targeted diesel subsidy in Peninsular Malaysia from 10 June 2024. This caused diesel to be priced closer to market level for some users, while certain eligible sectors continued receiving subsidized prices. Third is government subsidy burden. So fuel subsidies are costly. SME banks report states that subsidy spending rose to spending more to 77.9 billion in 2023, mainly due to fuel subsidies. So it is accounted for 25% of government operating expenditure. Fourth is dependence on road transport. So Malaysia relies heavily on road transport for goods movement. So delivery and uh, commu- Malaysia relies heavily on road transport for goods movement, delivery, and commuting. So when diesel costs increase, logistic costs can also increase. Lastly, ringgit and import pressure. Oil is traded globally, often in USD. So when exchange rates are unfavorable, imported fuel and related costs can become more expensive.
Now let's look at the effects of rising fuel prices on the cost of living. When fuel price increase, transportation and logistics become more expensive. As a result, businesses face higher operating costs and often increase the price of goods and services. This affects many groups in society. Households have to spend more on groceries and daily necessities. Students face higher transportation and food expenses, and small businesses struggle with increasing delivery and operating costs. Overall, rising fuel prices place greater financial pressure on Malaysians. Next is the critical evaluation. The targeted fuel subsidy has both advantages and disadvantages. On the positive side, it helps the government reduce subsidy spending and ensures that assistance is given to those who need it the most. However, higher diesel prices can increase transportation and logistic costs. Many businesses may pass these costs on to customers by raising prices. Therefore, while the policy improves government spending, it can also increase the cost of living if not managed carefully. From the Nakli perspective, Islam emphasizes justice, responsibility, and public welfare. The Quran teaches us to act fairly and avoid waste. This means government resources, including fuel subsidies, should be distributed fairly to those who truly need them. At the same time, policies should protect vulnerable groups and ensure the well-being of society. From the Akli perspective, we use logic and evidence to understand this issue. Fuel is essential for transportation, logistic, and business operations. When fuel prices increase, transportation costs also rise. Businesses then face higher operating costs and may increase the prices of goods and services. As a result, consumers experience a higher cost of living. Therefore, practical and evidence-based policies are important to reduce these impacts. Finally, here are some possible solutions. The government can continue targeted fuel subsidies for eligible groups while improving public transportation to reduce dependence on private vehicles. It can also provide financial support for small businesses, strengthen price monitoring to prevent unreasonable price increases, and encourage fuel efficient and environmentally friendly transportation. By working together, these efforts can help reduce the burden of rising fuel prices on Malaysians. So that is the end of our discussion on the topic of the rising price of oil in Malaysia and its impact on the cost of living. Thank you so much for listening.